Hello, and welcome back to another video. If you're looking for recommendations on what manhwa to read, then here are some that I've read recently that might be of interest. Manhwa titles are timestamped in the video for your convenience. Our first manhwa for today is Elissa's Whirlwind Marriage, a completed reincarnation manhwa that has a length of 110 chapters to it. Its main character is So Yuna, an ordinary girl in her 20s who enjoys reading romance fantasy novels, that is until one day she gets into a car accident and reincarnates as a young Elissa Lohengrin, a character that is destined to be taken care of by her husband in the future in an R-rated fantasy romance novel. Now having to live this new life as Elissa, will she be able to avoid her future fate? How will her relationship with her future husband develop considering who she is now? Her first thoughts are to have a better relationship and get divorced, but will it be so easy? The story is 6 out of 10. A part of the typical reincarnating into a novel romantic fantasy trope, wow what a mouthful, Elissa's Whirlwind Marriage is what I would consider a comfort read. There are bound to be challenges along the way, but there must be a light at the end of the tunnel, right? Without going into too much more detail, expect a lot of misunderstandings and assumptions. The characters are 8 out of 10. Considering that the story starts off with a young Elissa and Richard, there is a perceived amount of time that the two spend together. There isn't a significant amount of time spent in their childhood, but a lot of development is focused on the time spent once they are quite a bit more grown. The art is also 8 out of 10. With the romantic fantasy genre comes of course an art style that is very pleasing to the eye when it comes to character design and overall illustration. From this particular manhwa though, expect some more intimate scenes mixed in with its general atmosphere of lovey-doveyness. So if you're a fan of the romantic fantasy genre and want a completed manhwa that delivers a typical story with its own set of characters where the main character reincarnates into a novel, then Elissa's Whirlwind Marriage would be a good one for you to pick up. This next manhwa is Just the Male Lead's Friend, a reincarnation manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 49 on. Its protagonist is Dahlia Averin, the daughter of loving parents who also turns out to be someone who reincarnated into a novel they read in their previous life. Of course, Dahlia remembers the events of the novel as is typical of the romantic fantasy genre. While her parents are the harmonious kind, it's made known that the male lead of the original story did not have such caring parents. At some point, the children are introduced to each other and the situation is a bit different from what Dahlia remembers. Will everything work out the way that the original story was meant to? Of course not. That's why it's a manhwa that we're reading now. Get ready for another story where our dense female lead, this time Dahlia, doesn't understand the implications of her actions. The story is 7 out of 10. A typical reincarnation into a novel turned romantic fantasy, we have another title that can go down this predictable trope. While it doesn't do anything special or expansive with the groundwork it's given, it doesn't lack in any particular way when it comes to its plot delivery. The characters are also 7 out of 10, with more plausible situations being presented as both Dahlia and the male lead are introduced to each other from a young age. There's at least enough room that explains Dahlia's ever so common denseness from female leads of this genre. I do at least look forward to the romance that must so evidently come. The art is 6 out of 10. From its illustration of the place that Dahlia lives in and visits, her parents and the people of the household, to the overall mood, the manhwa gives off a very pleasing and calm tone to a lot of the scenes. For me in particular though, I find the art style to be a little rough around the edges, especially in the beginning, but it doesn't detract from the overall package though. So if you're a fan of the reincarnating into a novel genre that ends up being a romantic fantasy journey, which there are plenty of in my previous videos, then Just the Male Lead's Friend may just be one to give a read. A Tactical Genius on the Field is the name of our next manhwa. It's a modern manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 55 on. Ma Jong-woo is the name of its main character, and he is a crazy data analyst for the world of football, and soccer for those in the American field. Known as MAD in a popular football app that even professional managers look at, Jong-woo makes a name for himself as an excellent strategist in addition to his analytical skills. His skills go unwarranted though in the Korean Soccer League, however. After getting scammed into owning a soccer team in Europe, Ma Jong-woo looks to subvert expectations and look to lead his team into victory. Will he be able to do it, or will the mountain of debt that he has now due to being scammed prove to be too much for him? The story is 8 out of 10, with a very football focus that is reminiscent of the Football Manager games that are available on the PC. It feels like Jung-woon's journey is one of these career modes from these games. Prepare for an entertaining time following Jung-woo as he either proves or disproves his ability as MAD. I've certainly enjoyed it thus far. The characters are 9 out of 10. From Jung-woo, friends, players, staff, and other teams and their own respective people, there are a multitude of characters to be introduced to. Each of them have their own roles they fill that enhance the overall experience. Even Jung-woon's own character is enjoyable for the simple fact that he has so much passion for the game. The art is 7 out of 10. Being a sports manhwa, there are plenty of scenes and illustrations of the game itself. From showcasing passing, ball handling, shooting, and various others, it has enough variety in its scenes that you don't get tired of it. So if you're a fan of the game of football or soccer, and are also a fan of the video game Football Manager, and you're interested in seeing what a football manhwa can do from a manager perspective, then make sure to try A Tactical Genius on the Field. Our next manhwa to go over is I'm Done Being a Hero Even If It's Retirement, a regression manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 31 on. The focus of this story is on Adelia Esther, an individual who was chosen by the Holy Sword of her world, which allowed her to achieve a great many things and revive her fallen household. Due to a mysterious disease, though, she faced her end in a place of solace. However, the afterlife was not as Adelia expected because she ended up waking as a child once again before her family and house had fallen. Now with a new chance at life, she looks to trod down another path, one filled with her loved ones instead. As anyone might expect, this won't be easy as that path is also full of eventful situations that might have to force her hand. The potential is 7 out of 10. With a setup that is more typical for regression action manhwas, Adelia's focus on her loved ones is the only thing that comes as somewhat new for a story like this. Her disease that caused her eventual demise is also something that needs to be looked at in the future if she wants to actually enjoy her future. There are enough plot points that are introduced that it keeps the readers guessing. The art is 8 out of 10. Its illustrations of both the characters and environments are what I would call refined and detailed. I personally really enjoy the art style that the artist is able to depict in this manhwa, as it also has the comedic and entertaining scenes that don't overstay its welcome. So if you're a fan of regression stories that have the main character try and go down a completely different direction from their previous life, then I'm Done Being a Hero Even If It's Retirement would be an interesting one to pick up. Another week, another highlight. For those unaware, this section of the video goes over a manhwa I previously covered and updates my impressions of it. Today's highlight is The Gardener in a Hunter World, which I've now read up to chapter 50 on. Info card and description will have links to my original opinion. Jiha, our favorite modern fantasy general store owner, has slowly been discovering his new powers. It clearly has something to do with the world tree, considering he has both nurturing and blessing effects that he can give to a variety of targets. While seemingly nothing special, Jiha ends up being more important than he ever thought he would be in this modern hunter world. It's nice to see at least that he's starting to become aware of his place in this world and how his powers can be used to safeguard the dearest customers of his. The only oddity is that he interacts with them in a game-like way though. My previous scores for this manhwa were 8 out of 10 for art and 6 out of 10 for potential. The art stays the same at 8 out of 10, as while the initial scenes were set up to be more of a light slice of life feeling to them, the later illustrations have quite a bit of action in them instead. But it doesn't lose the light colorful tone though that the manhwa is riddled with. The potential though translates to a 7 out of 10 for story and 5 out of 10 for characters. The story is 7 out of 10 as the mystery behind Jiha's power and relation to the world tree is quite interesting. There must clearly be more of an eventual tale though as it continues its story. The characters though, with its 5 out of 10, are mostly from its one-dimensional characters. If they're good characters, they're good. If they're bad, it's bad. There isn't any depth to any of them other than the surface level emotions and motivations. So if you're looking for a modern fantasy manhwa that has a main character be an owner of the general store, but his place in the world is a lot more important than what everyone thinks, then The Gardener in a Hunter World would at least be worth a try. Would you agree, or would you not? Write down below your thoughts on The Gardener in a Hunter World. And that wraps up this week's episode. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and write in the comments down below the manhwa you've been reading and I might just take a look. Till next Thursday though, have a good read.